welcome to another movie reviews video. I did say 2 weeks ago that there would be one in 2 weeks time. I did say in that video though that there would be something other than Marvel movies, but then I decided that I would just try and share my thoughts on the rest of the Marvel movies that I saw since the 7 that I talked about in my last video. So if you haven't seen that video, I will leave that linked up here, and as always I will leave timestamps in the description below so that you can go and hear my thoughts on one specific movie. I had a couple left in my Marvel marathon, and then I will tell you how I watched the other films. I know I normally do just cinema, and I have been to the cinema, but I will cover the 2 films that I saw in the cinema that aren't Marvel films in my reviews video next week, because I'm not planning on going to cinema a lot this week, and I like to do a weekly wrap up. So let's start with Captain America the Winter Soldier, which was the next one that I saw in the marathon at the cinema. So I saw this in IMAX and 3D. I still really love the fact that Captain America is out for the good guys and wants to fight evil. I also like the fact that in this film we got a bit more of a history about him and when he was frozen and why he was frozen, and his relationship with Bucky, who obviously we saw in the first Captain America film. It was nice to see a bit more of a history of their relationship as well. It was also great that we had some of the other characters in this film, so it felt a bit like another kind of Avengers style movie, and I think the Captain America films are a little bit more like Avengers films because you do get to see other people in them as well. I won't say who because I don't do spoilers on this channel, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and again I could see the difference in the actual film as we got later and later. Having seen them in IMAX and a lot of them in 3D, you really can see the difference in the quality of the film. They become more HD, and the 3D gives you more and more kind of depth. I did again take the 3D glasses off for some of it because glasses and 3D glasses just don't work. Then the next one in the order of them and also in the movie marathon that I was watching was Guardians of the Galaxy. This is probably the one that I was looking forward to the most out of all the ones that I knew I was going to see in the marathon, and I did come out of this one, and well, this was the last one that I watched, so I then was at the airport for a stint after that on my way back, and I did start watching the second film. I haven't finished watching the second film yet though, so I haven't got my thoughts on that one together yet. But I really did obviously love the music in this one. I loved the storyline. I'm a fan of Star Wars, so the space thing got me. The fact that we've got a mixture of like human and different characters. I mean, obviously Groot is made out of tree, and then we've got Rocket, who's a raccoon but is genetically modified to be something else, and then Drax is different again. They're all very different characters. It reminded me a lot of Star Wars in that sense. Again, this was in IMAX and in 3D, and I really felt like the 3D did actually give it depth in this one. I think I kept my glasses on the whole time because it felt like, because it was IMAX as well, it felt like you were kind of stepping into the screen, which is how it should be obviously, but with the issues that I have with 3D, I don't always feel that way. But yeah, it did feel like you were stepping into the screen, and I really do feel like that was worthwhile in 3D. Yeah, I enjoy the humour in it as well, and I mean, Chris Pratt, I love Chris Pratt, so there we go. Then the next one that I watched, so I missed out Ant-Man. I do have the DVD of that one on hold from the library, and I did, you know, consult my Marvel expert, and he was like, it's okay to miss that one. So I missed out Ant-Man, but I'm hopefully going to watch that together with Ant-Man and the Wasp, like back to back together. So stay tuned for news on that one. So yeah, skipping Ant-Man, the next one I watched was Avengers Age of Ultron, and I actually watched this on the plane on my flight from Salt Lake City to London. And Delta screens on Delta flights, the long haul ones anyway, they're really good screens, they're really good quality, and it's one of those where it's obviously done so that even if the person in front of you tips the seat back, you still get the same perspective. It's not like, you know, those ones you sometimes have to pull out. It's not like that. Delta screens are really good, and having gone from watching films in IMAX and 3D to then watching them on a 9-inch plain screen, it was still pretty good. So I watched Avengers Age of Ultron. I really enjoyed it. I really like the Avengers films because I like the fact that all the characters come together and they interact with each other, and you see characters who you wouldn't normally think would interact with each other interacting with each other. I can see why people are big Avengers fans, why those films in particular draw such a massive crowd. I know Marvel films draw a massive crowd anyway, but the Avengers films specifically, I think, draw a bigger crowd. Yeah, I like the fact that you've got some of their powers or their weaknesses really complement each other well. So when you see them working together fighting evil, you can see, you know, somebody setting up something and then somebody else delivering it, or somebody maybe not being able to follow through on something, and so then along comes Iron Man, or, you know, Thor sets something up that then Hulk finishes, you know, that kind of thing. But yeah, there was a lot of destruction in this film, but thankfully that destruction does get acknowledged later on in another film, so that was okay. Then the next one I watched on Netflix on a laptop. This is all the different ways I'm watching the Marvel films, and that was Captain America Civil War, which was, whoa, way darker than any of the other films. I think this is the darkest one out of all the ones I've seen so far. So yeah, obviously it was quite upsetting, having said how much I love these characters as Avengers together, to then see them kind of disagreeing and having moments, you know, united we stand, divided we fall. It's not so good. Obviously there are reasons behind said civil war, but yeah, it was just generally a really dark film, I felt, and you're having sort of really loved the characters and loved the relationships that they have, to see those torn apart or to see those in trouble because of each other rather than because of some other evil entity. Obviously, yes, there are reasons behind it that aren't to do with them, but yeah, I didn't like how dark it was, but it was still Avengers. It was still these characters together in the loosest sense of the word, but I mean, I really enjoyed it. Then I skipped a couple, which I'll acknowledge at the end of the video, and moved on to Spiderman Homecoming, which I watched through Sky Go, again on a laptop. This was just such a cute film. It was so lovely and so nice, especially after the darkness of Captain America Civil War. It was really nice to see Spider-Man, who obviously was introduced in the previous film, and to see him like being Spider-Man but still having to deal with homework and school and other teen issues, and having a friend and trying to hide being Spider-Man from his friend. I like the evolution of his suits, and I loved his relationship with Iron Man, or Peter's relationship with Mr. Stark. I think that their interactions were really funny, but also felt really genuine. I was like, this is how Iron Man and Spider-Man would interact, definitely, or, you know, a young Spider-Man. And I thought, yeah, it felt really genuine. It felt really like what we needed after the darkness of Captain America Civil War as well. And yeah, just it was just really sweet and really cute, and felt very realistic. And obviously I liked the setting as well. It was a good setting. Then I got back on a plane again and watched 3 Marvel's films back to back on my 9-inch screen on my Delta flight. But watching on a plane means that, you know, you're strapped into a seat, you can't really have a lot of distractions. If you're watching it on your sofa at home, or even some people who are watching it in the cinema, there's your phone there to distract you, but you don't get phone signal on a plane. Yes, there's Wi-Fi, but you know, it's not great, is it? Let's face it. So actually, yeah, watching these on a plane had me really focused, and you're literally sat this far away from the screen as well, which I think is quite a good thing. So the next one in the series after this was Thor Ragnorak, which again, it's that relationship between the characters that I really picked out and loved in this one. I like the fact that we got to see more of Thor and Loki interacting, and their sort of troubled relationship with each other, and their troubled relationship with their other family, like their father and possibly anyone else. And we get to see a bit more of their history as well, which I think is great. I still haven't seen Thor: Dark World, so the review of that one is coming. I'm sure there's probably some more of their history in that one, and some more links back to the actual mythology behind it. But I like the fact as well that we've got Thor and Hulk interacting, and their relationship is just lovely. It's just beautiful. It's wonderful to watch. Obviously, we saw Hulk kind of disappearing at the end of Age of Ultron, and we don't really know what happened to him, but he crops up in this film. And I remember seeing the trailer for this one, because obviously this is still quite a recent release. So seeing the trailer for this one and seeing Thor go into like the fighting ring, and then being like, I know him, he's a friend from work, and that all making sense now. If I'd have seen that moment in the trailer, having watched the rest of the films, I would have been like, that's hilarious, that's amazing, this film's going to be awesome. But I loved that bit in the film, and I loved seeing them interact. I loved seeing a bit more of Hulk as well, because obviously he's in other films in other parts, but he only has the one film, whereas Captain America, there's like 3 of his films, Thor, there's 3 of his films, Iron Man, there's 3 of his films. So it's nice to see some more of Hulk, because he only got that one film, and then just you see him in a smattering of other relationships. But it's nice seeing his relationship with Thor, and seeing his transition between Bruce and Hulk develop and change a little bit as well. And yeah, it was just entertaining and good development of the storyline, I thought. Then the next one was Black Panther, which has obviously been a massive hit, and has been kind of the film that everyone was seeing and everyone was loving. Out of the ones that I've seen so far, it's probably my least favourite. I don't know though if that was because it was just so hyped. I mean, it was #1 at the US box office for so long. Everyone was going to see it. It was parodied on SNL so many times. Obviously, all the people who are in it, there's such big names in it, and then you know, you saw all these people on all the talk shows. It was literally everywhere. It was a bit overexposed, and so I think I went into it going, oh, this is going to be amazing, I want to watch this. I almost did go and see it in the cinema, almost, but then I didn't. It works a little bit more as a standalone, which is quite cool, because I think some people will have come to it because of the stars who are in it, because there are so many stars in it. And so I think as a standalone, it would have probably worked quite well for them. Obviously, we see Black Panther appearing in Captain America Civil War, I think, if I'm right. I've watched a lot of Marvel, it's hard to keep track. So we see kind of his beginnings there, but we get a lot more of his background in the actual film. And obviously I'd seen him in Avengers Infinity War as well. But I like the fact that it's set in a different location again. These films have been amazing for kind of showing different locations and the places that people wouldn't necessarily have visited. Obviously, we know where Wakanda is located. You wouldn't necessarily be able to visit it. But again, just having a film set in that location is a big deal. Just even having a film set on that continent is a big deal. There's not a lot of films set on that particular continent. Yeah, I don't know. There wasn't as much humour in this one as there had been in, for example, Thor or Spider-Man, so maybe that's why I didn't like it as much. I still liked it. I'm not saying I disliked it, but I think possibly it was just because of the overhype that I didn't like it as much. And there's also quite a lot of violence, and violence between families as well in this one. But wow, what a cast. And also, yeah, great setting, and the fact that it works as a standalone as well, I think is good. Maybe I didn't want it to be a standalone. Maybe I was waiting for Iron Man to come in and have a meeting with him, as he does in these films. Yeah, it was still good though. And then I rewatched Avengers Infinity War, which I got so much more out of having watched all of the others. I probably would have waited to rewatch it until I'd finished with all the Marvel films, but it's a 10-hour flight and I was there, and this film's 2.5 hours, so I had the time and I had the energy to watch it at that point. So I thought, well, I've watched almost all of them now, I'm ready to rewatch it. And it was great seeing all the characters who I now know so much more about coming together, and characters who haven't come together before coming together, and waiting for what their interaction is going to look like, and waiting for how they're going to relate to one another. That was really exciting. Again, this is quite dark now I know what I know about the characters. It is a dark film, and I can understand why people came out of it emotionally drained after their 2.5 hours. And I can see why people came out of it having cried as well. I heard a lot of people saying, take tissues, and I watched it obviously not knowing any of the background to any of the characters or any of the storylines that went before or anything about Infinity Stones, and didn't cry, but I may have done a little cry, just one, this time watching it. I may go back and watch it once I have finished with all the other films, but I might wait until it comes to Netflix this time. I think it's still playing in a couple of second run theatres, but yeah, so that's the stage that I'm at right now. I am currently halfway through Doctor Strange, just because I came back and started watching that, and jet lag meant that I could not watch it anymore. I'm also halfway through Guardians of the Galaxy 2, because I started watching that at the airport when I was waiting, when I changed planes from Denver to Salt Lake, and then I got to the UK and it wasn't on Netflix there, so I couldn't keep watching it. As I say, I am waiting for Ant-Man to come from the library, and I want to watch that before seeing Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is still in quite a few cinemas right now, so I'm hoping that I'll be able to catch that whilst it's still in the cinema. And I am about to watch Thor: A Dark World, which is the one that would have been the 8th film in my Marvel marathon at the cinema, but it was on at 10 o'clock on the second day, and I couldn't do any more, so I went home and missed that one. But yeah, so I'm going to watch that one. So I have the 2 Ant-Man films, Thor 2 to watch in their completion, and 2 that I'm halfway through. I know I shouldn't have stopped halfway through, but it was just circumstances. So you can expect my thoughts on those once I get round to them. As I say, I have been to the cinema twice since my last video, but I've decided that I'm going to roll that into next week's video. One of them was a rewatch anyway, so I wouldn't have said an awful lot about that one. But yeah, if you've made it this far, awesome. Let me know in the comments below which your favourite and or least favourite of the Marvel franchise films is. I'd be interested to see if we have similar opinions. Timestamps are below. If you've skipped right to the end, you can go back and watch different ones. I will be back with another bookish video tomorrow, and I will be back with some, promise this time, non-Marvel films reviews this time next week, so next Sunday. So I will either see you tomorrow or see you next week. Bye.